I just set it so the webinar is recording to the cloud, by the way. That's not the fireflies.
Okay. So I'll
It should be okay to like I think it should be recording. I think we're just good.
so I don't have to do anything
Nope.
recording wise. Okay.
Nope. I got it.
Okay. Everyone who's talking is here,
Perfect.
except for Erica, and I'm too awkward to bring them in.
I always wait for Erica. I go, oh, okay. She's here. Everyone can come in now.
Come on, Erica. I told them to all come early. Should I just not be awkward?
Well, it's totally up to you because realistically, like the only reason we ask for them to be here is so that they're here when participants arrive. So like I don't think like they're not gonna get like a rundown or anything.
Yeah.
Who's talking today? It's Scott Walker, Nicole Rabe, Mitch and Matt, right? Or no? Wait. Yeah?
Yeah. It's Mitch, Chuck, Scott,
Mm,
Nicole.
okay.
And then a few others are from the like corresponding companies, but
Mm.
okay. Everyone is here. Everyone is here.
Oh, there she is.
Are you here? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Erica, I'm gonna let in the speakers, okay?
Oh, yeah, they should have already been in and being onboarded. Whoops. Sorry.
There we go.
There we go. Yay. I didn't mean to be so late. Hello. You're coming in.
For you.
Hi.
Hello, hello, hello. All right, so just want to make sure there's Scott, Chuck, Nicole, and Mitch. Are you on, Mitch? I just want to make sure you can hear me okay. Nope. How's everyone doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing good.
I'm okay, except for the whole voice thing that you might be able to tell. So hopefully it holds out for the panel today. Yeah, I've did a lot of talking in the last few days, and apparently my voice just gave up yesterday. I had no voice, so it's coming back. Yeah. Just to kind of give you the lay of the land. So first of all, I'm Erica Shelley. I'm the executive director here at Ontario Organic. We are rebranding away from Organic Council of Ontario in the new year, so I'm practicing saying it. And Courtney's probably who you've been talking with in terms of getting everything here figured out. So we'll do an introduction where we just talk about, we do our land acknowledgement, we talk a little bit about what OCO is, and I'll do an introduction for each of you. Courtney, I have bio link. I just need that link. I realized I didn't have that. And then each of you has some time set aside. How much time for each one of them, Courtney?
5 minutes.
Okay, so approximately 5 minutes for each of you to just kind of give us a background about what you're working on or the information you want to relay to the group in general. And then we'll kind of we'll go into not kind of we'll go into the panel questions. And I know you all are kind of coming from different backgrounds, so it's going to be really exciting to hear about what you have to say. But I do recognize there might be some that are more particularly suited for others. So, and then what we usually do is we take questions at the end. and then we open up to our audience, and usually Courtney or Sammy's on here too, so she's our other staff person here today, part of the team, and they'll relay the questions, and then sometimes people have specific questions. So that's from our end. Do you guys have any questions for us or anything that's needs some clarifying?
So we're just going to have 5 minutes each to talk about what we do, what our role is wherever we're working, and then Courtney, I'm wondering about showing them OAFRIP. I didn't realize I didn't need a deck. That's fine. I don't need to use it. But we were kind of going to show OAFRIP, which is like a little search portal if you folks are looking for current projects underway or historical projects underway. We have a little free thing you can use. Is that okay to show that?
Yeah, I think that 5 minutes was actually you. If you have a deck, you can share that deck in that time period. I don't know how long your deck.
Way too long. I didn't realize we only had, I thought it was 20 minutes and then 5 minutes for questions, but that's fine. I can just show that little part at the end and that's good to go.
Okay, yeah, and my apologies if there was miscommunication there. Scott, I don't hear you at all. Are you? I see you're talking though, so I just want to check everyone's mics. So Nicole, I've got you for sure. Chuck?
I can figure out how to hit the unmute button. I should be
Okay,
okay.
I've got you. All right, Mitch. Mitch is not, I don't hear you. I don't see you. Let's see if I unmute you. Nope, I can't do anything. Can you unmute Mitch and see if he's stuck or anything? And Scott, are you able to use your microphone? Or you probably went off because you're trying to figure that out. I got my Janis Joplin voice on, so I feel like I should be saying something, which would do more damage than anything. So, all right. Well, we're at 50% of people talking today. Nicole, you might get 20 minutes for your deck.
I can
So,
pivot. I can do whatever we need to do. Chuck, you're a good speaker too. I'm sure we could fill the time.
Yeah, we'll be all right.
all right. And let's see, I've got, okay. Hmm. There's my, got that. Okay, we're still waiting on Scott and Mitch. We need to know your mics are working. We are at 4 minutes after. Why don't you let people in, Courtney, and get everybody figured out? All right. Ooh, it's a full room today. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I see some familiar names. I see some new names. I love when I see a room fill up like this. It's like pretending we're in a real place and everybody's just like funneling in here. So, all right. Okay, so we've had a bit of issues with two of our speakers. Mitch, there you are. We wanted to test your microphone and we didn't see you. So you're here now. Can you test your microphone?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Perfect.
Perfect.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Thank
no,
you.
apologies for that. My audio is a bit wonky, but Matt's here with me in the same room and his audio is perfect. So I'm gonna
Okay,
use his mic.
okay. All
Yeah.
right. And I think Robert was the only one then we're waiting on here. Make sure we've got his or no, Scott. Sorry. Courtney, who am I missing here?
I
Or
It's
microphone?
just Scott Walker that
Okay, so
might be coming back in, entering back in.
yeah, he's gone. That's what I was like. I'm like, I don't see him. I'm like, do I have the wrong name?
Well, I think he tried to turn it off and turn it on again, fix for his microphone.
Okay, well, that's all right. We'll go ahead and get started. So, welcome everybody. It is so great to see all of you today. You might notice that my voice is leaving a little bit for wanting, and so hopefully it will hold up for the conversation today. If not, Sammy will start asking you some questions. But yeah, so as we get going here today, I just want to welcome you to our innovation talk and our innovation panel. But before we get started, I want to go ahead and do our land acknowledgement. Are you able to share those slides there, Courtney?
Just working on it right now. It's needing me to sign back into Canva.
Okay. If there's an issue, I think Sammy probably can hop on there too and share her screen. Guess we are the day of technology issues on our innovation panel. Isn't there an irony there?
I thought all technology just worked right out of the box. Perfect.
Just right out of the box. We
Yeah,
don't need
that's
to
what I
innovate
always thought. Yeah. Let me tell you some stories.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, before we get those slides up, once I come up, I'll get started. Just a little introduction. So we have a small crew here at the Organic Council of Ontario. We will be rebranding in the brand new year to Ontario Organic. And so it's myself, Erica. I'm the executive director here. We've got Courtney, who is she does our events and some of the farmer talks and the webinars that we're presenting. And she actually works a lot in tandem also with Sammy, who does our marketing and communications. So really happy to have our team here today. And we're getting closer. This is feeling closer. All right. So yeah, if you hit the present, perfect. So welcome, the official welcome. And then our next slide here is our land acknowledgement. So we want to acknowledge that there are 46 treaties and other agreements that cover the territory now called Ontario, where the Organic Council of Ontario's membership resides. We are thankful to be able to work and live in these territories, and we are grateful to the First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people who have cared for these territories since time immemorial and who continue to contribute to the strength of Ontario and to all communities across the province. And we're just so thankful that we do have people that join us from all of these different territories. So if you would like to share your land acknowledgement in the chat where you are, we love to see those acknowledgements and that recognition to the land that we are sharing. And if you're not sure whose land you're on, you can always visit their there's a couple of websites you can visit, whose.land or native-land.ca. All right. And so I think a little bit about the Organic Council of Ontario. So we are a small nonprofit industry association, and we represent everyone in the organic value chain here in Ontario. And that starts with the farmers that put their hands in the soil to the people that are eating the organic food. So we have moved those people as part of our organic value chain, because without the end of that organic value chain, we don't have a reason for our farmers to put their soil in the hands. So all of those people that are producers, processors, businesses, and we actually have a lot of people that work on policy work as well. And we want to just thank everybody for being a part of that value chain. So our job here is really to strengthen, to grow, to educate. And we do that in lots of different ways. And one of those is bringing webinars like this to you today. And so we're just so happy to introduce our panel. So our panel of speakers today includes, hold on, I've got to switch my screens here. So Nicole, is it Rabe? I forgot to ask you the last name there, Nicole.
We just say Rabe.
Rabe. All right, I was like, I had a 50-50 there. So Nicole has spent her career advancing soil mapping and precision agriculture across Canada, from her early work with Agri-Food Labs to teaching in Manitoba and contributing to the Ontario Soil Health and Conservation Strategy. She now serves as a senior research advisor at OMAFA, supporting key research and innovation programming. We also have Chuck. Oh my gosh, I've like really usually check on names beforehand, and I did not do that. Baresich.
You got it close enough.
All
Close
right, all
enough.
right. So Chuck is the general manager of Haggerty Limited and a leader in bringing robotics to Canadian agriculture. He founded Haggerty Robotics in 2021. I didn't realize how new you guys were. Wow. And also farms with his family near Bothwell, Ontario. Mitch Downton, did I do that one right?
Got it.
Okay, is the government relations and partnership manager at FoodCycler Science, where he builds strong networks with government, advocacy groups, and academic partners. He also leads funding strategies and supports municipal, commercial, and international initiatives for the organization. And Scott, quotation middle name, Data Walker, it brings 45 years of experience in agriculture, starting with organic farming to R&D leadership across Canada. He now runs DSW Enterprises, coordinating research on biologicals and biostimulants, and is known for his passion for soil and plant health. Welcome to all of you for joining us today. We just have such an esteemed panel here. And so the way today will be going is we've allotted 5 minutes or so for each of our panel members to discuss what they're working on, and they can they'll have slide decks. So Courtney's gonna hopefully no more technical difficulties, but we might be moving between sharing screens, so hopefully that goes smoothly. And then we'll start our panel questions. If you have any questions at all, please drop them into the chat. And in the last 10 or 15 minutes, depending on how long things go, we'll open this up for a chat. Now, I have one thing to announce that many of you maybe noticed that there was a discrepancy between the time that was put out on our emails for this panel talk and the actual time that you have for the Zoom link. So this is an hour-and-a-half conversation today. And we'd actually put out some extra time so that each of these panel members would have a chance to talk about what they're doing before we got into the panel. And we have such an esteemed group of panel members today. We definitely want to hear about what they're doing from them and then spend some time asking those questions. So that'll be how we'll be doing that today. And I actually didn't ask who wanted to volunteer to go first with their talking about what they're doing. Do we have one of the panel members that want to volunteer to go first?
I can go first, no problem.
All right,
Thank you,
take
Nicole.
it away,
Thanks, Nicole.
Yes.
I'm gonna try to share my screen now though. Let's see how this goes.
It's going to work perfectly.
Is it? Okay.
Yep. And it did.
Yes, yes.
It's not
yes.
in presentation mode, but I think we can get by as long as the audience can see it okay.
It looks
can see it
good to
good.
me. Good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me today. We are so excited to be here to talk to you and share with you some of the research and innovation activities that are happening at the ministry, and I look forward to the conversation afterwards. I'm just going to kick it off with a bit of a policy discussion. A few years ago, under the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership, for which we rely on considerably to be able to deliver our research and innovation programming in the province, we developed the Grow Ontario strategy with our policy colleagues to sort of move the bar towards a pathway that would allow us to expand our programming actually and start to cover off much more than just applied research, but be able to move the bar towards commercialization in Ontario and in Canada. And we recognized a gap in that commercialization space that continues to be an issue in Canada with ensuring that our small to medium-sized businesses can flourish, can innovate, can do all the great things that we want to see them do here in the province, but then also hire people that want to stay in the province, right? And so a good portion of what my work is as a senior research advisor at the ministry is training the next generation of students who want to be in agriculture. And so there are 3 key pillars of the strategy, and I encourage you to take a look at it. At the food summit back in the spring, if any of you were there, we did a little bit of an update on some key performance indicators that were coming out of this strategy and how we are tracking at the moment. The first one, strengthen the agri-food supply chain. The second one is increase agri-food technology and adoption, which is very suitable for today's conversation, right, Erica? And then also the last pillar is that a very passionate part of why I do what I do, and that's training the next generation of people that want to come and help us in our sector. So I will let you just go away and sort of take a read through that. What I want to also share with you quickly before I trade off to our next speaker is our research agenda is quite open and welcoming to all of you in the organic sector, and it really spans sort of 3 core buckets across the ministry. All corners of the ministry are involved in developing this research agenda. And so the 3 core buckets are protection and insurance. And so under there, you will see sort of 3 core focus areas: food safety, animal health and welfare, and plant health and protection. We also spend a considerable amount of time in working with environmental stewardship and stewardship programming across the ministry. So that's soil and water health, sustainable production systems, and ensuring that we have a land base that's protected and safe for future generations. And that has a bit of policy involved in it, a bit of planning involved in it, and there's always some much needed research in that space too. And then the third bucket, which is really critical right now, is our economic development bucket. The ministry is known for our economic and capacity building work on terms of a vast amount of our programming, right? But it's got sort of 4 key areas that we have for our research agenda there: competitive production systems, innovative products and product development, trade market and growth opportunities, and strong rural communities. Now you might ask yourself, Nicole, we now are OMAFA. What's going on with rural? Well, rural is right now its own ministry, but we agreed to keep rural in our research portfolio and support that ministry as best as we can ongoing. I guess so, sort of having that foundation of how we bucket things and all the different pieces of our research agenda, I guess I'll just share with you one more thing, maybe 2 more things, Erica, if there's time. Through the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership, we deliver sort of 2 prongs of research and innovation programming. The first prong has to do with our University of Guelph Alliance agreement, and we have a very considerable agreement with the University of Guelph for many years to do many, many things. One tiny piece of that agreement is to co-deliver some research programming. There are many tiers I would love to talk to you about today, but the one that I work on is called Tier 1, and it's our applied research stream. And it's the predominant one where my unit works with their unit to co-deliver that programming every year. But the other piece is we have this open programming where any college, any sector organization, any not-for-profit organization, any university in Ontario can apply for some funding. And it sort of spans this whole continuum now, from applied research to pilots and demonstration to knowledge translation and transfer programming. And where we stop with the Ontario Agri-Food Research Initiative, or OAFRI for short, is adoption. I have a vast number of colleagues who look after adoption in the ag development branch, right? And that is their key role, is to take the research, to take the science, to take the knowledge and get it out there, right? So I just wanted to show you this continuum, and it's very well aligned to our federal transfer or technology readiness levels too, obviously, because we work so closely with the federal government on our funding. And then where we can't deliver these programs, we partner. And so we have partners at Vineland to ensure that our horticultural sector is best represented in that agreement. We work with BioEnterprise on our new commercialization stream because we know our place as government, and we're not as agile. So we look for partners to help us do that better. And we work with the Livestock Research and Innovation Corporation as well on an innovation partnership to deliver better and better, more impactful knowledge translation and transfer. That's really what that agreement is about. So we have these innovative partnerships too. Part of my unit is about sharing the impact of all of that, right? How are we contributing to GDP? How many people are we graduating every year in terms of highly qualified people in the province? And so we have a KTT strategy at the ministry. I just want to let you know it's really important. It's part of every proposal that anyone will write in one of those research and innovation streams, because we want to make sure that the results are getting out there to all of you. And so the last bit of my presentation today is to just share with you quickly that we have this research and innovation portal. It's free for all of you to use. In short, instead of this big long title, I just call it OAFRIP. And essentially, you can just go in there at this link, and I can share these slides over with all of you at the end of our session. And you can search for relevant research to your production practices. And what it's going to return for you is simply some research results or some pilot and demonstration results, whatever the case may be, on that topic. And it'll give you a quick synopsis of what did we learn? Like, what are the 3 to 5 key concepts that we learned from this research or this project? And if we don't have those yet, it'll just show you the objectives for all those projects. So as soon as it gets funded and as soon as we get them translated into French, they all go live. You can at least see that they've been awarded, what the objectives were, and where that research team is going to take the work. And then at the end of the project, you'll see the key summary statements go back in there. So for those of you out there that have children and they're doing some sort of agri-food research project, this is an excellent resource for them too, to keep them engaged in some really good Ontario research and innovation work that's going on. So that's about my 5 minutes probably, right, Erica?
I think it's good for now. I wasn't timing you, but I will say that if we have time or if people want to know more, we'll definitely be able to get back and ask you some questions. I love the OAFRIP acronym there, right? That rolls off the tongue so easily. So, but what is really incredible is the fact that really, if people want to know that research that's going on, that's super easy. You can just go there and take a look. And I think that type of transparency, seeing what's been funded, and just learning all about it, and the fact for students too that they can go and see what you're all doing is great.
Yeah, I'm going to put
So
the link in the chat for everybody if they want to play around with it.
yeah,
There you go.
and we will share out all of the slides from today. We'll go out. We always do a summary email where we'll send out the slides plus a link to the video. This is being recorded, so you can catch up on it later as well, and other people who weren't able to make it. All right, who's our next volunteer to talk about what they're doing? I'm gonna have to point to you if you don't volunteer.
I can go.
All right, Chuck, take it away.
All right. I'll see if this is going to work. Here we go. Chuck Baresich, and I'll be talking today mostly about Haggerty Agri.
Nope. Chuck, I'm gonna just I see that your screen there it is. It just hadn't loaded up yet.
Yeah, just there we go. Yeah, so I'm a farmer from down southwest Ontario between London and Chatham. We have an agronomy company that's been here for almost 25. We're going into our 25th year. And through our experience with the agronomy company, we got involved with precision ag equipment for well over 15 years and spent a lot of time on data collection, auto steer systems, rate controllers, and these types of things. And really what that led us into is robotics and alternative methods of crop production. Is is a good way to look at that. And most of the work that we're doing with robotics is taking existing platforms. A farmer will come to us with an idea, and they will have a problem that they're facing on in their production system, and we will either work with an existing platform, modify that, and figure out a way to deploy it on their field, or we will get a platform built. This picture shows where the robots have been deployed across the jurisdictions, and where we've been using the machines. And I won't bore you too much with these kinds of things, but really what we're up against is how do we deal with some of the most basic questions that farmers have, or problems that farmers have. And some of that starts with land preparation. Is there a way to have the soil prepared for planting? Most of the work that we are doing is in outdoor field crops. We are not involved in indoor crops at this stage. We are focused mostly on outdoor, or exclusively on outdoor crops. The machines that we're using can till the soil. They can prepare seed beds. They can seed or plant crops, and they can attempt to look after weeds. So for the most part, farmers have the option of either using a mechanical weed control. So obviously using a cultivator is a technology that's old as the hills, but with an autonomous robot, that technology allows the farmer to focus on other things in their farming operations, such as selling their crop at the market or doing other tasks around the farm while the robot is doing the cultivating. And the newest technology that we are involved with is using non-chemical weed control methods where the soil is not disturbed. One of the challenges that's always brought up to us with cultivation is sometimes we don't want to disturb the soil over and over and over again to control weeds. So what other methods are there? The stuff that we've been working through has been permanent cover crop and managing that permanent cover crop between rows to try to suppress weeds, using lasers to target weeds in and around the crops. And the most recent technology that we're working with is UV light as a weed suppression method as well as other diseases and stuff that impact plants. The majority of our work that we're dealing with is in horticulture, in the vegetable space is the majority of the work that we're doing in, and that largely is because of the scalability of some of the equipment and the cost that's associated with it. That's all that I have for now.
Well, it's a pretty impressive portfolio there. And I'm sure there'll be lots of questions in terms of, I guess, accessibility is always probably the biggest thing. It's like you make cool things, can we buy cool things? And
Right.
And we'll come back to those questions, I think.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that the last piece that I forgot to mention was that we are very, very happy to have two partnerships that we work through. One of our partnerships is with Innovation Farm Ontario. We are supported by both Farm Credit Canada and the Western Fair Association through our Innovation Farm. And these are a network of innovation farms located across Canada. We are very fortunate to have two of them in Ontario, one down at our location and the other one is at Area X.O in Ottawa, as well as a farm location in Manitoba and at Olds College in Alberta. And so we are, I think the combination of acres that are part of innovation farms across Canada is well over 10,000 acres now.
Wow.
The other partnership that we have been very fortunate to work with is a partnership that was started by some colleagues at OMAFA and Western Fair, and that's through the Agri-Robotics Working Group. Nicole did have a little image of that on one of her slides. The goal of the autonomous working group is to find like-minded people who want to solve problems and build this ecosystem here in Ontario to help solve problems. The goal of Innovation Farm Ontario is to actually let this technology work on a real farm so that fellow farmers can come and see it and test it out and see how it looks.
Oh, all right. Well, and that's actually really great information to follow up with on that. So that's absolutely fantastic. So, all right, I've got FoodCycler. Do you guys want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, can you share your screen?
Yes. Um, duh, 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 duh. Oh,
Okay, I can see it. It's just not in presentation mode, but it's
I get
there.
one. Yeah, I think that'll suffice.
Yeah.
I think that should be totally fine. Well, Erica and team, thanks so much for having both of us here today. We really appreciate it. So yeah, my name is Mitch. I'm a government relations manager here. Joining me is Matt, our head of research. So we're from Food Cycle Science. So our organization makes food waste recycling technology. So essentially all it's doing is processing food waste into a dried byproduct, but Matt and his team have found that this byproduct has many beneficial downstream applications. So he'll dive into those. But first, maybe just a little bit about our organization. We're a Canadian clean tech company. We're just based in Ottawa. We're focused on food waste and diversion solutions. So we've been around since 2011. And to differentiate, so our organization is called Food Cycle Science, but our branded technology, that's called the FoodCycler. We have a small team, just over 50 of us, but almost 20 of us are, including Matt, are devoted to either engineering or biochemistry. Next one, please. So we currently have three FoodCycler models. So two of them are a residential or a household unit, so called the Eco 5 or the Eco 3. They can handle 5 or 3.5 liters of food waste. But I think what might be a bit more relevant for the audience today is our commercial team is hard at work finalizing our upcoming compact commercial model. So this is our FC75. So this can actually process up to 75 liters of food waste a day. So it's about the size of a mini fridge. It's on wheels and it has 2 independent drawers for maximum flexibility. But so essentially, next slide, please, Matt. What is the FoodCycler doing? All it's doing is grinding, heating, and dehydrating food waste all at the same time. Food waste is mostly water, so that's when we're able to take the water out and then grind and heat what's left. We're really able to see a significant reduction in mass and volume. So the units actually accept up to 99% of different types of food waste. So fruits, veggies, meats, dairy, fish, pits, and even some small bones as well. And they have really advanced grinding technology. And so that's why we're able to get such a stark decrease in volume and mass by up to 90%. And so, as I mentioned, what you're left with after the cycle is this dry, nutrient-rich, shelf-stable byproduct. And so essentially what you're putting into the unit is what you're getting out. It's just ground up and minus the water content as well. So if you put all organic food scraps in, what you're going to get out is an organic byproduct. And we're currently in talks with EcoCert as well to seek out organic certification for the upcoming commercial model. So I'll hand it over to Matt now to explain what his research team has been up to, specifically around the use cases, like what you can actually do with this byproduct.
Thank you. And I'll kind of skim through this quickly and leave any questions that remain till the question period, but spend a lot of time and efforts into really characterizing what comes out of this machine and how exactly we can use it in a variety of downstream applications and existing infrastructure. Really trying to understand, the physical and biochemical characteristics of the byproduct that comes out, everything from pH density and down to the actual nutrient composition. This is just a snapshot of some of it. We've done everything, including, heavy metal composition. And as Mitch said, a big portion of this is what you get out is a reflection of what you put in. That's if it is a lot of fruit and vegetable waste, you'll get a very nutritious byproduct versus if you take a lot of McDonald's food waste, put it in, you'll get a much more, salt heavy byproduct, which is why with EcoCert, we're looking at that certification in terms of if, there's a greenhouse, for example, who wants to recycle their first and second degree food waste on site and then reuse it without it ever leaving the site. Is that something that could be, certified organic, and really just trying to close the food waste, the circle on food waste, pardon me, and really try to keep food waste out of landfills due to all the negative environmental, consequences that creates. But we've done a lot of investigation, as I said, into heavy metals, a bunch of foodborne pathogens that's in-house and third-party validated as well. And we've worked with a variety of downstream researcher institutions, such as Vineland Research, who's already mentioned here, variety of compost labs, such as environmental engineered compost systems, anaerobic digestion investigators, really to identify one, can the byproduct be used as a feedstock in these downstream applications? If so, how can it optimally be applied to these applications such that you get the most out of it without disrupting existing operations that are going on? The three that we've really dived into, of course, as I mentioned, are industrial compost, anaerobic digestion, as well as using it as a solid soil amendment. Other ventures that we're still looking at is, vermiculture, black soldier, larvae farms, creating biochar activated carbon. This is just a snapshot of the kind of three that are ongoing and the three that we've already done a lot of research on, but we have so many different research projects really trying to, again, look at closing the food loop on food waste. That is just prevalent across all industries. And this actually comes from Vineland itself. This is a snapshot. They did experiments using our byproduct as a soil amendment and just saw an increase, big drastic increase in lettuce growth as a result of using just a small amount, right? That's 3% of the byproduct in. It makes sense, right? What you get out of food waste, especially when it's good food waste going in from fruits and vegetables, there's a lot of the essential nutrients and nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, as well as those, divalent cations, the magnesium, the calcium that plants also require. So we'll stop there. It's a quick snapshot of our company here and what we're doing, and we'll save any questions and discussion for later on.
All right, thanks so much. I'm actually I just recently found out about your company. You guys reached out to me, and really excited to see you guys are plowing ahead forward, and it was some really interesting technology you have there. So I look forward to seeing the discussion and hearing the questions that we have for you today. So I think we only have one more presentation. Scott, do you have a slideshow to present?
There we go. No slides to present. I was led to believe that I would just be on a panel answering questions. So,
well, this is perfect. Go ahead. This will be great. Just tell us what you're all about.
I think in light of the other presentations, I think and not for sure full knowledge of people in the background that are attending today. I'm just going to take, when you look at 45 years, you got to put that together in 5 minutes. It's going to be a squeeze. So I'm going to take a look at some of the projects that I've been involved in most recently, and I'm going to refer to it as Biologicals 101. So initially, a lot of these smaller biological development companies are coming from a world of cash poor, but they still want to have things evaluated. And being a data nut myself, I know that to be sustainable at the farm production level, whether you're in broadacres in Western Canada or fruits and vegetables in the Okanagan or there in Southern Ontario, it takes a significant amount of return on that investment when you look at these biologicals. And today, if you look at on a world sphere, there are literally coming to the point where there are thousands of manufacturers with a multitude of products. How does a producer at the ground level to try and keep himself sustainable swim through all that information? Because we now know in Canada that if you go through for a CFIA label in pursuance of a biological or a biostimulant that generates a nutritional change of that crop, requiring those labels, efficacy is no longer a requirement to get a label. So the industry at large since 2013 was left out there swimming upstream with zero guidance. And that's where I come in as a company, as I coordinate my efforts with, generally speaking, smaller companies that are somewhat cash poor, and I help facilitate replicated trials first at research farms, which unfortunately, due to the cost in Ontario, a lot of those trials are done outside of these certain provinces because the cost is quite significant. Thank goodness for these OMAFRA programs that are being introduced with a significant amount of funding, because that's what it takes. I funded a small project through Vineland Research Station. $5,500 later, all I got to do was test the control and test one treatment. In Western Canada, I'm only $800 per treatment. That would have been a $1,600 touch for that trial in Western Canada, whereas Ontario, that cost is significantly higher. So I'm trying to facilitate these efforts for smaller production customers that don't know the exact level of return on investment from their use, and then try and drive that through replicated research. And I work really closely with a company now in Ontario called Velocity Green, where they've got boots on the ground. They're in the fruit and vegetable industry, and they're taking on a multitude of field trials, be it tobacco, ginseng, apples, peaches, pears, and plums. Running when you've got a product that comes is how I look at it today. I don't know if many of you ever skipped in your days, but that's an old skipping rhyme. And the key is to take this data and massage it so when it moves into that marketplace for an introduction at the production level, that not only has it got a beautiful story and you're trying to get the producer to drink your Kool-Aid and use these things, it's backed by actual data, be it from replicated work or be it from actually on-farm study work to the best of the knowledge. In essence, that's what I've got. If there's other questions you'd like to propose after I do this small presentation, there's a multitude of practices I've done in the background. I'll leave you with this little titty for those that are here. It's a great piece of information. Is in my efforts to work with a lot of biological today that are CFIA labeled, and they are all about nutrient release and cycling in the soil, whether you're changing the oxidase process or reductase process. I'm starting to see a huge spin-off of a change in the disease pressures in both the soil itself and what it's emitting. So these biologicals that are coming into the picture today have incredible offshoot opportunities for the ag industry. And I think, Erica, in the world of the organic industry, these materials are going to offer significant leg up in production of certain crops, because you'll find that these spaceships we so often think are spreading disease crop above our crops are actually emanating from the soil. And if we change that environment with the work we're doing, we collect more data, we'll see we're going to change that whole rhizosphere. The landscape of disease pressures is going to begin to change.
All right. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Scott. And actually coming into this working on biological controls myself, I have been very familiar with some of the work that's been done. Velocity Green is working on, and I just find that field really interesting. So we're really happy to have you to join us today. And so now I'd like to open up the questions for the panel here. And so my first question is basically, if you were to look ahead at the next 5 years, what is the change that would improve resilience and profitability in the organic sector? And I think, Nicole, I'm actually going to throw this to you first, because you're sort of seeing all of it that's coming through here. You're looking at the policy. What do you think that change would be?
I think there's a couple of things I'm thinking about in the next 5 years, which is from a research standpoint, in my world, I do have to say that's a really small window, right? In our history, as of late, in the past 5 years at the ministry, one of the things that had kind of lapsed was some of our breeding programs. And so we've resurrected an innovative breeding program that can help all sectors look forward to the future of what we need to be, for example, climate change resilient, right? And what does that look like? Historically speaking, we've supported the organic sector with some breeding programs on organic soybeans, as another example. And Istvan's work, sort of, I think it was like in the mid 2000s, right? Up till about 2017. So those kinds of programs are very long term, right? Honestly, it can take 12, 15 years before you see those sort of varieties come out and actually go to market, right? And so those foundational pieces are also part of our research and innovation programming that we've kept an eye on, that we've resurrected through an agency like ARIO so that we can get longer term funding to those kinds of projects. So I think I'll leave it at that. And I can kind of look for some more information while the rest of the team talks here about that program and what ARIO is. ARIO stands for the Agricultural Research Innovation Ontario. They've recently rebranded and evaluated their mandate, and they are the owners of all the research centers across the province that also help facilitate those kinds of trials needed that we were just talking about earlier in Scott's work, right? So I'm going to put a couple links in the chat and I'll let my colleagues go next.
Yeah. Does any of the panel members want to add to that?
Well, I was trying to see if there's a way to tie in that question with Howie's question that he had typed in the chat as well. It is somewhat related, and one of the things that we're looking at from the robotics perspective is that this is a production system. It's like a systems level change. So it's not a matter of saying, like, how do we farm like a traditional conventional farmer and try to turn that into organic production. It doesn't necessarily work that way. Some of the stuff that we're looking at in the robotic space is that, using smaller machines, lighter machines, reducing compaction, trying to prevent, reduce open field, more ground cover. How do we integrate these things into the production systems without adding more labor? Because one of the challenges that's always faced with alternative production systems is the requirement for additional labor, which is hard to get. And I liked when people challenge me on the use of pesticides and they say that everyone should grow organic, I should tell people that they should try it first and see how hard it is. And before you make a blanket statement, it's very difficult and there's a lot of work involved. The allure of the robotics work that we're doing is a way to perhaps potentially open up this avenue for the farmers that are in it and expand it. It's easy to say the consumers should pay more for organic produce. That's an easy thing for as a blanket statement, but the reality is that many consumers cannot pay more. And so how do we do this in a way that is acceptable both socially, financially, ecologically? Like it's a system that has to be looked at, and it's very, very complicated. I'm hoping that we're a piece of it.
Yeah, and I think, Chuck, one of the things that really at the end of the day is recognizing that innovation comes in the ways we've always done things and doing them better, but also in doing brand new things that we've never done before that may even improve things beyond what they were in terms of labor and in terms of, I constantly hear organic farming is hard, but why can't organic farming be easy? Right? And why not? Right? If we can make it easy, then eventually we no longer have to put an organic label on our food. It's just food, and non-organic food has a label, right? We'd love to see that switch at some point.
Well, and I think farming in general is difficult.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
absolutely.
And And so what we're trying to do is improve things where they can be improved. And when I was a kid growing up, we were taught we had to plow everything, and that's just how it was done. And then when I was a little bit older, it was how big can the tractor get? 1,000 horsepower, 800 horsepower. That's what we were taught. And then now, we've no-tilled stuff for 25 years. It turns out we didn't have to plow everything. So what else do we not know?
Yeah. And Scott, I think you might have a really good idea of what those things are and kind of what you see in the next 5 years. What do you want to add to this? Oh, you're muted, Scott.
There are boundless opportunities, folks, for the people in the world of organic production. I look at where I was at with my original team of horses in '79 and where the industry has come today. It's remarkable. Not only did we go through all those large tractors you just spoke of and massive equipment, you can only imagine what I'm exposed to here in the prairies. What is really an interesting thing when I read that question, most of us here are probably mainly interested in organic farm and our processes and what's our focus going to be going forward. I think what really got me early years back in the 70s and 80s to what I still see today, it's interesting that we have still an issue with phosphorus availability in the soil in organic farming. Many folks have been using things like worm castings, compost teas, and yet we know from the conventional industry there's an overlap here of different types of bacteria, and that's how you found out about Velocity Green and their work with this one company's Bacillus products, who've now come out with a strictly a Bacillus group of bacteria that are astoundingly incredible in their ability to extract phosphorus and offer it up into the rhizosphere and the root exudates. And just because something is used conventionally, I speak to the organic folks, it doesn't mean that because they have a dual purpose label of organics and through CFIA that it should be looked upon with a dirty eye. These materials will significantly change your opportunities. It's a mindset change. And the same goes for the conventional guys. When I speak in those audiences, I mention that this is organic registered, their eyes roll in the back of their head, and it becomes foo-foo dust. So it's a real industry change, a consciousness that's evolving. And trust me, I'm trying to retire, and there's just nowhere near the end of that road do I see it in sight, because it's such an exciting opportunity. And when I alluded to, the spin-off and impacts of the impact in the soil, rhizosphere, and the general environment, it's quite remarkable the spin-off effect we have in terms of subdued disease issues when we're going after all this nutritional availability. I'll be the first to admit one of the reasons I went back to focus into organic work was a lot of my research when I come from a certain pool of products, be it a biostimulant or a biological, when I put it into an environment of field production and I'm trying to prove certain aspects of this material, the fewer pesticides I'm involved with in that trial, the better, because then I can lean on the fact that I'm seeing these results not because they just did a series of fungicides or did a series of insecticides. It's the actual result of applying these materials that are biological in nature, not to mention how susceptible they are to some of the synthetic pesticides. So again, there's going to be a serious overlap of products. I'm working with the CFIA and the PRMRA through a group in Ottawa where we're trying to even come up with a dual purpose label, because a lot of these products will have a dual purpose effect, and we have to make sure that there's no overuse of these as well in one industry or the other. So there is a lot of interest in these materials. They're blossoming. But my goal today and into the 5-year future is bring industry members to the table and support replicated research as well as support on-farm research. Producers that Chuck was alluding to are so gall darn busy today. If you don't subsidize them to do a program in the field, how do we get it to happen? And then there's the collaborative effect. I'll leave with this and let others join in. Is if I can get a cooperative group of producers together, and I have 4 in particular in mind, if each one of those producers do but one trial, we now have 4 trials independently done, but there can be a network of information. And then that can be taken through a grower organization like the Ontario Organic Group, and that can be shared amongst the industry. Then the workload is shared amongst a few to get it to the many. And that's what I see happening in the future is the collaboration within grower organizations as well as on the ground so that it becomes a network of effort.
Yeah.
Oh,
All
don't
right.
get me started.
I think Scott, we could do a whole talk with you, and it might you could fill up probably 2 days of workshops. So no problem there. Food. I'm gonna just keep calling you FoodCycler because I can't remember the name of the actual company, but Matt and Mitch. And so I think one of the things that Scott kind of alluded to was, conventional products and then organic products. And you guys saw opportunity in the organic world with something that was just being used as a residential or maybe like a large kitchen product. What made you see organics as a place for you to go with your product?
Yeah, for sure. We were, oh, sorry, I think I'm getting a little echo. Perfect. Okay. No, our commercial unit has been in development for several years now. And so we were thinking, listen, food waste is an issue everywhere. So we were just thinking what areas, of the ag space are really dealing with food waste. And so naturally we went to greenhouses. And so we had a lot of chats with different greenhouses because they have to deal with such intense periods of food waste. I think because our solution is kind of middle size, there's really large scale food waste digesters. They can go up to 1,000 liters, but they're a little clunky. The technology is old and they just require so much power. And so we were thinking, so ours is a little more compact, and we realized the large greenhouses, they just generate too much food waste for the solution that we're presenting. And so naturally we were recommended actually to talk to the OCO based off of a greenhouse grower who said the organic space might be maybe a smaller size, and the fact that the byproduct that our food cyclers generate can be used directly on site as that nutrient-rich byproduct. It just really helps close the loop on food waste if you can take your grade 1 and 2 food waste and then be able to just reuse that right on site. We just thought that could be a really exciting next step to reach out to. So again, the technology we haven't released it yet. It should be released early next year, but we're just getting excited thinking about all the possibilities, and especially if we're able to again close the loop on food waste by growing it on site. That's what led us to chat with you, and we're really happy we did.
Another factor too is talking to these greenhouses, the Ontario Greenhouse Associations, is that I guess a lot of landfills are limiting the amount of waste they will accept from greenhouses in a few years. They're simply running out of room. And again, as Mitch said, the sheer amount that's produced. So in this age too of, trying to be more sustainable, a lot of them are reaching out looking for a solution that really checks a lot of the boxes, that's energy efficient, that closes their own loop and minimizes the amount of waste that they will be taking, that they're relying on landfills to take as they, slowly close their doors for greenhouse waste.
Okay, yeah, and that's a good piece. Sometimes it's not necessarily technology that's driven by, necessarily better things, but sometimes rules are in place that we have to figure out workarounds, and that sounds like an awesome opportunity for your product as well. So David actually put a question for the panelists. I had a list of questions, but I really like this question, David. What recent technological improvements can you attribute to the commercialization of your product? And are you tracking new tech that might improve your product in the next 10 years? So Nicole, this one wouldn't really be for you, but you probably know about all of the different things. So I think I'll throw it to each of the panelists. But Nicole, I'm actually going to bring you into this question because I want to ask you for the sector on whole, what those technological improvements have been and what you've been seeing in terms of what's coming through, which might be a really big question. If you just say, I don't know, that's okay. But yeah, is one of the panel members that like to start us off with that technological improvements? No, all right. I think Chuck, I was going to send it to you because I feel like you probably are the easiest to
Well,
speak.
and I think it's sort of related to Hala's question as well. You know, I think that what's happened in the precision agriculture space is, you know, we used to have auto steer systems. You know, we used to have, or we started with auto steer systems. We figured out fairly reliable drivetrain systems in a large part of Ontario, not necessarily everywhere, but we've got pretty good cellular communication data connections in a large part. Obviously, it varies. And so what that, you know, if you kind of combine the technology, you know, the reliability of the technology, the ability to monitor it remotely, the ability for a machine to drive itself up and down the field without a driver, these things are coming together now that we can turn them into actually something useful. And so what we're seeing is, you know, machinery that even battery operated machinery, which is a little bit shocking, that can operate for full work days, you know, on a single charge. We've brought in a robot from Denmark that can operate with a solar panel on the back for 23 hours a day. So that convergence of technology and reliability is allowing us to kind of figure out, well, what tasks can these work for. Now, you know, the organic sugar beet market in North America is not very good, so the solar power robot isn't necessarily the best for that. But what we did discover with and Nicole talked about the Alliance program. So through a funding agreement with the Alliance program, what we did figure out was that there is a way to grow clustered onions with this robot, where these onions actually yield just as well as conventionally planted, and with a significant reduction or without the use of chemicals. And that is the next step of this trial. You know, the farmer that's been trying this out is using chemicals in their production system, but they don't have to. And the first step was to determine, does the technology actually work? This is opening up a window into it. And when some of the technology first came to agriculture, you know, I think some of the first tractors that came to market and people saw computers in the cab and they saw all the wiring on the cab, one of the most common things people said was, oh, I want my old tractor back that just had a key switch and nothing else. But what we've proven is that this high tech actually can work in the field and it can be reliable, and that is enabling some of the advancements that we talk about. The last step that deals with AI imaging, like the AI imaging of weeds and identification and targeting of weeds, that is almost table stakes in the industry now. That has been solved. It's at very, very low speeds. I will put a caveat. At high speeds, it has not been resolved, but at very, very low speeds, that technology exists today. Where what we're seeing is, as that technology develops, we can move towards adoption of it. And interestingly enough, all of the work that's being done in the autonomous vehicle segment, so driverless cars, all of the investment that has been done by, and this we're talking billions of dollars of investment in various countries. That technology in sonars, sensors, radars, cameras, imaging, LiDAR, tracking, we can actually take that technology from the vehicle sector, from the automotive sector, move it to agriculture. And that significantly reduces the cost of that technology. Because let's face it, there isn't, like in North America, there isn't a million farmers, unfortunately, in Ontario. And so we farm lots of acres, but there's not a lot of us. And so it's very, very hard to make a mass produced, low cost tractor because there just isn't that many of us to do that with. It's not like a car. So we need to take that technology from other sectors and bring it to ag. And I think that is one of the technological improvements that's going to bring this technology to us in the very near future.
Yeah, and I think you listed so many things that have probably really propelled you to where you are now. And maybe we don't even understand what's going to happen in the next little while that will propel this even further, right? There's catalysts in the funnel coming that we don't even know about. So Scott, how about you? Has there been big technology changes that have affected the groups you're working with in terms of biologics? And what do you see in terms of, what could be coming in the future as well?
Well, first thing I'll bring up to that is, as I've attended several world congresses that started many years ago, there's an incredible short of biochemists and other scientists in the world that are developing a lot of these technologies. So what we thought would evolve rapidly 10 years ago at that level has been somewhat short. But because the marketability and the market size around the world of this industry, it grew exponentially way ahead of the scientists. So these technologies, yes, are moving rapidly, but do we have that their technology comes from humans as opposed to what Chuck's talking about in terms of equipment? The programming comes from humans and that's developed, but now it's AI. Whereas a lot of these other materials are spinning off because the technology is going to speed it up a little bit, Erica, for sure, because the scientists are finding new models in which to isolate these bacteria, how to do spin-off manipulation to them. And then it's a question of proving it in the field. So absolutely, the evolution is going to continue. Will we keep up to it? I don't know, because I watched the endophyte market move forward, and that was done by the majors, and they had a great opportunity and a story. And within 2 years, because of poor performance in the field, because remember, I started my comments about sustainability really starts at the farm level. If a producer's not making money with these technologies, and I'm sure many on the panel can appreciate that's where their funding essentially comes from. That's essentially where our sustainability comes from. We have to be able to support the technologies with that kind of grassroots opportunity. And absolutely, again, for the organic folks, and I think they'll all appreciate this, one of the major driving forces to the development are the mainline conventional companies because of the money. Let's not lose sight of the fact that it's all about the money for the major manufacturers, okay? But they see the money on the table, so they're pouring billions of dollars into the development. And that technology and that, they'll gobble up any biochemists we have available because they can afford to pay them. Yeah. But then that means the development's there more rapidly. And then that they'll support it. And then they'll come out with a conventional label, but it can also have an organic label. So it becomes a win-win. And in that, the organic industry is about to blossom and flourish and be on an even footing of conventional production because they'll be able to produce it organically just as well as a conventional farm. And they'll already have a lot of sustainable practices in their soil. So believe it or not, they might have an opportunity to take an edge up if we can get this overlap looked into and get that regulatory body of the two pieces come together. There's great opportunity here, folks.
Yeah, and that would be absolutely great. And you know what I have found in the past is when people are accidentally using organic products and not realizing they're organic products, and you know what, that's better for the environment, right? Maybe they're not in our corner in terms of certification, but when they're using products that they don't even realize are beneficial compared to other conventional products out there, it can be fantastic. I'm going to move over to our FoodCycler group, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to answer that question. But we're also going to move this into questions for the audience. So in the next, after they answer this question, which includes a question from our audience here, feel free to start dropping your questions into the chat box down there. So Matt and Mitch, I don't know if you saw the question down there. It's a lot of questions altogether. They want to know how widely it's being used, the cost, which I think you guys had 6,000, I think I saw on the piece there. The end product, if the facility doesn't have a use for it, if there's actually buyers for that end product, and they're thinking like chef schools, etc. So that's a bunch of questions to throw at you at once, but I feel like we can tuck that all together into one clean answer there. Do you
For
want to
sure.
take it
So I
away? Yeah.
can, I've typed out some of the answers to that one in there too. But yeah, I can just kind of reiterate on those specific questions. So yeah, our household units right now, we're in over 15 countries, predominantly though Canada, US, Australia, but Taiwan and South Korea actually are our biggest markets just because the food waste issue really came to them, just not a lot of land and really high population density. But our commercial unit, when it's going to be released, will be around 8,000 or so Canadian dollars. The byproduct end use, what can you do with it? It is a great question. So we actually, with our household units, we have community programs all across Canada right now, and so we actually sell our technology in bulk to the local government. And then so instead of a green bin, let's say they get a FoodCycler instead as a government service. And so when we have these programs, we'll help them set up centralized collection for the byproduct. And then a lot of the times the town will have community gardens. And so they'll be able to actually use the byproduct right on site in the community gardens. But as Matt had said, we've partnered with Vineland to create almost a foodalizer gardening guide. So if you have a garden at home, you know the exact ratio based on your diet and what's going into what you're putting into the FoodCycler. Based on that, what ratio you can actually mix that in with your garden to get the appropriate plants afterwards. And in terms of selling the byproduct, it's a great question. We haven't really it's a path we haven't been down yet, but because we've seen the potential for the byproduct to be so good in biogas facilities, we've heard in some initial talks, we've heard that there could be great interest in biogas facilities wanting this byproduct, not only because it's so dry. So if these facilities are having really wet feedstock, this is so good at drying that out, and then because it's so compact and concentrated in volatile solids, it's really good at creating biogas too. And they already beat us to the punch on if we're talking to chef schools, small restaurants, we're actively talking to those folks right now as well. And I think that the previous question too was maybe one about what innovations we're looking down the road. We have 15 engineers on staff. We're an innovation first company, so we have an innovation lab. It's just around 20 feet or so away from me. So they're always iterating on our technology. One of the biggest things coming up, we want to put IoT into our unit. So basically create an app for our units. And so the commercial unit is actually going to come installed with some software, just to give some basic information at first, like how much moisture content is coming in, how the weight of the food waste, and you can actually see that reductions, just to give folks the most information as possible, which will really help with waste audits as well. And I'm also, the second part, I'm glad Matt's on this panel with me as well, because another innovation, we've heard from a lot of potential commercial customers about contamination, specifically if it has to do with let's say you're a restaurant and you have a lot of fats, oils, and greases, that kind of food. Matt and his team have actually worked on developing enzymes that you can put into the unit with the food waste, and the enzymes will kind of counteract those fats, oils, and greases so that the byproduct is as normal as possible. And so those are just a couple of the things we're actively working on now, but we're always innovating. And so yeah, it was a great question.
Yeah. And would there be like an opportunity? I'm just thinking about some of the people that Howie's working with, and they have these biologicals that could potentially be integrated with like some sort of food waste. Is that like partnerships like that? Have you guys looked into collaborating with any groups that could also create like kind of a more holistic product with just the waste that's coming out?
Um, sorry, I was reading Nicole's question,
Oh,
sorry, could you, repeat that just once more?
that's okay. So what I was asking was, in terms of, you have kind of this dried down product. It'd be wonderful if you could inoculate it with, with like, I'm just thinking some of these biologics or something like that, you kind of get a 2-for-1 deal or mini 1 for deals. So improving soil health, adding nutrition. Have you guys thought about any sort of collaborations like that?
Yeah, we have. We know, fundamentally, basically all we're doing is increasing surface area, and it's so concentrated in organic material that microbes will love it. So you want to make sure, though, that you're propagating the proper microbes, the healthy ones, the ones that aren't going to deter, plant growth or spread pathogens that are going to work in as an antagonist towards the microbes that you want to. So that's the tricky part. The nice thing is because it's fundamentally heating up to dehydrate the food waste. It actually kills, you can't never say it's sterile, but we can say it kills over 99% of the bacteria, as well as spore-forming bacteria, which can be harmful. There's the government in Australia. We have a lot of sales there. That was one of their concerns. We did our test to show that type of spore-forming bacteria is for sure killed off. You're not reapplying that downstream. So to answer your question, yes, we've definitely looked at that. It's just about having the right inoculant and optimizing it so we can, as I said, continue to propagate what we want and avoid propagating those certain microbes that would not be beneficial and that we don't want to see continue to grow throughout the soil, whichever soil environment that might be.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good to know. And actually to know we're starting at zero, not concerned about bringing anything over. Nicole, I'm realizing I got lost in the conversation and I didn't come back to you on that big question
That's
for
okay.
you. And I would love to hear your answer to that.
So I have a question for you, Erica. What proportion of the membership would you say is in controlled agriculture, greenhouse production, so on and so forth?
I would say if we look at acreage, that the majority are not. I would say if we look at our revenue, I would say a lot. So
Okay.
there's a bit of a difference there, but our greenhouse industry does not have a lot of acreage, but actually produces a lot of food from their smaller acreage, which is actually a huge acreage in terms of greenhouses. We do have some aquaculture. I don't even know what proportion of aquaculture we have in the province. And we actually, as scary as it sounds, we don't have hard data for most of this stuff. And it's actually a project that we are working on. We have Ask AgriWise and we're working on some data portals so that when I get asked these questions, I could actually pull up something and give you some really hard data. But we do have a general idea of those controlled scenarios.
Okay, well that helps me. So I'll mention a few things that I'm excited about. I can't even remember now what the original question was, but with respect to greenhouse production, under the OAFRI program, we saw some commercialization of small greenhouses that are more in the space of not conventional glass style or film-based structures. This came from Food Secure Canada, and Kim Parker is the CEO of that company. They are very portable. They may provide a solution for Northern Ontario communities that are looking for more than just container style greenhouse structures that require a lot of diesel fuel in northern, especially in northern Indigenous communities. So that was one company that really innovated the structure. And now what's really interesting about this company is they're going to be looking at some other opportunities for that structure in the space of livestock housing. So you start to see it developed for one production aspect and now maybe going to migrate into a different, less cost prohibitive structure for housing animals. So I'm excited to see that burgeoning, and I think it's a space to watch because they're more energy efficient. And the second thing in that space that I saw at Harrow Research Center is a lot of innovation around greenhouse gas reduction and energy consumption in conventional greenhouses, and looking at year-round berry production and filling the space of the existing structures that you might have. And some innovative shelving for strawberries in particular, where they're experimenting with year-round production of strawberries and what those platforms look like. And so that was a really cool tour that I had with some outstanding Harrow researchers who are actually federal, but we have our trustee specialist involved in that work too. Fatty, of course, is involved in that project too. So if you're ever looking for a tour or an opportunity, that would be a really cool thing for your membership to do in the wintertime. Often it rotates between the Niagara region and the Harrow region, and there's always a tour planned for the Greenhouse Conference.
Okay.
Lastly,
I was just going to ask before you leave that, drop in the chat if you would be interested in a possible greenhouse tour. Are there organic greenhouse tours as well?
a lot of those producers, well, I did sort of two tours. I did one on my own with Harrow researchers, which I don't know if those particular berries were, it was more about energy efficiency than it was about the production practices at this stage in that project, right? But the other one that I'm talking about, we did on our own, and looking for energy efficiencies in commercial greenhouses certainly did involve organic herb production.
Right.
And so that was a really interesting one to tour. But there's a lot of research going on in this space, and so there's lots of things to follow there. The last thing I want to mention is the microbiome work, soils work, particularly in where I came from earlier in my career before I joined the research and innovation branch. You know, we are just at the cusp of understanding beneficial microbial communities of their own right and how that benefits crop production practices. And so that really excites me too. And I think what I'll plug today is an event happening next Friday to celebrate World Soils Day that we're involved in organizing with the University of Guelph. It's both virtual, and I shared it with Courtney. So Courtney, you can share it out with a membership, or you can go in person if you're in the Guelph area. I recognize you all aren't. But if you want to catch up with students and you want to catch up with researchers on the soil microbiome work and soil health and everything to do with soil practices, soil management practices, that would be something to attend next Friday.
All right. Thanks for sharing that. So fantastic. All right. So I have a question here in the comments. And this will be our last question, and then we're going to actually wrap things up. This time just went by so quick. And this is actually a very specific question to you, Chuck. So Hala, I'm not sure how I pronounce your name. Hopefully I didn't do too bad there. That's a question about weeding robots. So some have been prototyped in academic and private labs. And I realize that identifying weeds, machine vision is still in development. We just talked about it's possible, but slow was what you had mentioned. But is there potential for pairing robots with remote users so that weeding is done by clicking buttons as opposed to labor in the field? And I guess you wouldn't constantly click buttons, but maybe a recognition of, yes, this is a weed. No, this is not a weed, and that it would remember that. And this person is asking as an organic farming advocate.
So
I think the question wasn't directly answered already, but thanks for reading it.
Yeah, well, I think I can add on a little bit to my answer from previously that Hala had talked about, is that what's interesting about the AI systems that people don't realize is that not all weeds pose a problem. And so when the machines go through the field, you can actually train the models to leave certain ones if you don't want to deal with them in that moment. So there are certain weeds that can be removed. There are certain ones that can stay. And some of the treatment options that we have, because we're working through a system, allows you to potentially leave, let's say, a cover crop of oats while you're pulling out broadleafs, and then go back in and deal with the other's product at a later date. So there's a lot of stuff happening. I would argue that we are beyond the academic stage for the most part with these robots. Really, what we're at now is we are at a commercialization and adoption stage. We're moving, we have 30 plus robots out in the field. Like Huron Tractor might sell 30 tractors in a month. Okay, so like the scale of the adoption is where things are at this stage, and that is going to be the next piece. The interesting question when we talked about pairing robots with remote users, one of the things that we are doing is these robots, for the most part, are being monitored remotely. And the reason why they're being monitored remotely, one is from a safety perspective, but two, if you have a crop that's worth $10,000 an acre, you're pretty reluctant to just let some machine wander through it aimlessly. And because and I think that Scott talked about this before, is that the farmers, this is their living, this is their livelihood, and the risks are high. The risk of failure is very, very high, and that slows adoption. So one of the reasons why we offer remote monitoring of these machines is to help alleviate that concern that the robot's not going to wipe out your 10 acres of onions or 10 acres of cabbage while you are happily driving to watch a movie somewhere.
Yeah.
Or sleeping.
Or sleeping. Yes. So, all very good points. All right. So we're going to just wrap things up with that. We do have just a couple of slides and a feedback form for you as well, if you are able to give us some feedback. Innovation and technology is an amazing space, and I'm just so pleased that we were able to have Scott, Mitch, Matt, Chuck, and Nicole all join us today. If our panelists don't mind dropping in your contact information, your websites in the chat, and we will also send it out in the email that we'll be following up with. Nicole was trying to add some PDFs here. We'll definitely send along any of that information that you've sent to us to everyone that has participated here today. And from the bottom of our hearts here from Ontario Organic, Organic Council of Ontario, we just want to say thank you for your work in this space, your work in agriculture, and for moving us forward into this next place. So our virtual coffee meetup is coming December 15th. If you have not joined us, we actually do this every single month. And it is really a very informal, people asking farmers questions. We have different kinds of farmers on every month, and these have been a huge success. And we hope you can join us on December 15th from 1 to 2 p.m. All right. And of course, we would be remiss if we did not give a shout out to our conference that's coming up in January. This is a brand new conference, even though it's our 45th year. We are moving into a whole new space where we are hoping, and not only hoping, it will happen, that people are going to engage on a better level than ever before, because we're moving to the Guelph Farmers Market. We just found that the university did not give the ability for everyone to connect in the way that we were hoping for connections to happen. They definitely happened, don't get me wrong, but this space is going to be even better. And we have our trade show happening the same day as our intensives. So that allows for our farmers to meet with the trade show people. So that's happening January 27th and 28th. And tickets are actually going on sale December 1st. So, and if you have not applied to exhibit, I don't know, we're curating our exhibitors this year. So we've had way more applicants than accepting, but we are, I don't know if we're still open for applications. If so, Courtney can drop that into the chat there. We're looking for sponsorship as well, and we hope to see you in January. All right, our next slide is, of course, we bring these webinars to you, all the work that we do is thanks to partnerships that we do receive some funding from OMAFA. We do receive some funding from the federal government, but really it is our memberships that make a huge importance here. Our impact partners donate a small percentage of every single sale they make to the Organic Council of Ontario, and then we're able to spread that throughout our entire profits. We also have our association members, our business memberships, our producer memberships. If you are not a member, please become a member. It really, really makes a difference. And we do have our organic advocate members. So just if you love what we're doing, you support what we're doing, please consider becoming an organic advocate as a member as well. And then our last slide, I think here is a feedback slide. So yes, if you want to give us some feedback on this or any other webinars, things you'd like to see in the future, things we could do better. Sorry for the technical problems. I would love to do better on that, and it does happen all the time. But any information, feedback you can get, the only way we can get better is if we hear from you, and the only way we know that we're doing a good job is if we hear from you. So either way, however you feel, please let us know. And we really appreciate you joining us today. So thank you so much to all our panelists, Chuck, Scott, Nicole, Matt, and oh my gosh, one last name there. Who am I forgetting?
Mark.
Mark, sorry. I don't have you guys there anymore. I'm just doing it from memory. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you at the conference, and we look forward to all of the work that you're doing and seeing the progress. And if you can share that with us, we're happy to share that with our members too. So thank you so much, and have yourself a fantastic day.
Great. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.